What's going on, guys? It's Chris
and Charlie.
Hey, and we want to welcome you to another Fusion Real Estate Investing Network show. We have somebody very special here today. Do you want to talk a little bit about who we have here?
Not that special.
He's a very humble and special.
I love it.
He's very humble and
it.
special. So let me tell you a little bit about Josh. So Josh has done a lot, and when I mean a lot, I mean I'm talking about a lot of fix and flips in DC. You're probably one of the most, known, or at least that does a lot of work in DC. If I go to DC and I talk to investors, Josh, they're probably gonna know you. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you're doing right now, and just tell everybody where you're at in your business.
It's kind of why I'm losing my hair right now. 10 years later, getting a little thin on top. So I came to DC in 2004. And, like a lot of people, came to DC to work for the government, ended up working for the DOD in a research lab, naval research. It was about a year into that job that I started to realize, you guys are from this area, probably you remember what the market was like in 2005. I was like, man, there's people making a lot of money in DC right now. Here I am at this government job. I'm making $62,000 a year. And I see these guys making that in a week in real estate.
Right.
So I was like, what the heck are these guys doing? They're obviously doing something right that I don't know about. So it was about 2004, and I ventured out. I'm like, I gotta figure out what's going on. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't come from a real estate family. So I started actually doing mortgages part-time.
Okay, so you're talking about 2004.
2004, I started doing mortgages part-time.
Okay. That's where things are getting at
you
there.
could give anybody a mortgage then, right?
So you were the guy that were giving the pizza guy mortgages.
I never gave the pizza guy mortgages. I saw these guys doing, option arms and making, the reason option arms, people don't realize, the reason option arms were popular in 2004 was because the lender commissions were like 3 to 4 times what a conventional loan was.
Oh my God.
So okay, it's like
good
Christian,
incentive,
it's like Christian, you're gonna give the guy a $300,000 conventional loan and make $3,000. Or are you going to give them the option arm and make $12,000? Like, so for most loan officers, I mean, you had people that formerly came from all different walks of life that were making $12,000 on one loan, $15,000 on one loan, doing 10 loans a month. So I was like, okay, I'll get into that business, but I never did option arms. Did a few loans. Thought, it's not really for me, not really what I wanted. I got out of it what I needed to get, and that is, you guys understand this as a real estate investor. There's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle. You have to understand, at least somewhat be confident in what goes on the lending side, both at the retail level and the wholesale level. You have to understand, what goes on the realtor side. You have to understand what goes on the contractor side, the property management side. So I got out of the lending business what I need to get, and that was, what are the concerns, what are the considerations you have to have when you're going to buy a property on your own and try to sell to somebody else. What are sort of the hurdles that you're going to have to get past?
What do they need to qualify? And
everything,
like the 91-day rule. Do you guys have the 90-day rule with FHA buyers in DC and everything like that?
Exactly. Yeah. Which, and also sort of understand like sort of the intricacies of lending. I mean, a lot of people, even people that are regulars in this business, don't understand like really what goes on behind the scenes in the lending environment. I mean, the reality is that top producers get, a lot more leverage than somebody who's new off the street. Top producers who bring in a marginal deal.
That's true.
If you're doing 20 deals a month, I think your manager's probably gonna, maybe let that one go through versus the person who started yesterday who's done.
It's the past track record, right? You want to make sure you have that.
Exactly.
The track record where you could say, hey, look, we did 19 deals and everybody made money. The 20th is also going to make money, even though it's a little bit risky for the bank, perhaps.
The person who's originating 30 million of loans a year for their bank is going to get a lot more leeway than the person originating 500,000 or 1 million a year. So I learned all the little intricacies of what you should think about on the lending side, and then I was like, this is not really for me. And then right around 2005, 2006, the market crashed. And I had convinced myself in 2005, it's the only investment I ever did where I actually, I guess on paper, it looks like I made money, but I don't think in my own mind I made money on this deal. But I bought a condo in downtown DC, 100% financing. This is in 2005.
Okay.
And my dad calls me up from Seattle, Washington. I grew up in Seattle. Same high school, Quincy Jones.
Oh, really?
Who else would you know? Brandon Roy, the famous basketball player, about 2 years younger than me. Who else would you know? The famous musician. I can't think of his name right now. But anyways, grew up in Seattle, Washington. My dad calls me up one day. He says, why are you buying a condo in downtown DC? He's like, you just moved to the metro area in 2004. You really don't know the area yet. You've only been there a year and a half. Mm-hmm. He's like, are you sure about this?
And how much was the condo?
The condo was like $429, and consider this
one bedroom.
one bedroom. One bedroom. I got it with a 5-year interest only arm, 100%. I'm like, Dad, no, don't worry about it, because not only can I get a good deal on the loan, it's like brand new condo. Right. I can get 100% financing here on this condo. He's like, so I'm like, don't worry about it.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Like, but don't worry, the fact that more than 50% of my government salary is going to go to pay this interest-only loan, right? So I buy this condo, which was questionable, for $429, and then by literally 6 months later, after I bought the condo appraised. I bought it for $429, 100% financing. 6 months later, the condo appraises for like $500,000. Wow! I'm like, wow, this real estate thing's crazy.
Good. Life is good. This is bad. This is good. Yeah.
So I call up Wells Fargo Bank. I'm like, man, I don't like this 5-year interest-only loan. So they refinanced the deal at $500,000 into conventional.
Okay.
On a 10-year interest-only, 30-year fixed, one of those crazy loans.
So you put in some down, right? You put
no, it was 100%, still 100% finance, because it appraised for like $500,000.
Oh, that's what everybody was doing. Oh, that's what you did there. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody was leveraging.
The next thing you know, about not more than like 2-3 months later, the bottom falls out of the DC marketplace. Literally, like 2-3 months after I refi, I'm in this condo, like a lot of people in the DC market and around the entire country. I'm upside down. This condo is dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. By like 2007, it was worth $350. Wow. From $500,000 in downtown DC, it drops to $350.
Which is not. I would imagine it would drop even lower than that. That's crazy. So okay, $350. So what did you do next?
I'm still working my government job. I'm like, man, now I'm like a prisoner to this place. I'm like. So not only did I lose all this money, like I'm still stuck at this job. I'm like living paycheck to paycheck, literally. I'm like, man, what's the next move? So I called my dad up one day. I'm like, we're one of those families, like we talk about everything. I mean, you know what? I'm not making money on this condo. It's costing me a fortune. I'm blowing more than 50% of my paycheck on this place. Yeah. It's time to move. Mm-hmm. So he's like, what do you mean move? Like you got a mortgage to pay. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna rent that freaking thing out, and he's like, well, who's gonna rent it for me? I'm like, trust me, it's downtown DC. We'll find a lawyer. Somebody will rent it.
Somebody. Yeah.
Lo and behold, a lawyer rents it.
How much a month?
About $2,000 a month. I'm upside down. Yeah. I think I was upside down from the very beginning.
And what was your mortgage in that, by the way? Do you remember?
I think it was like $2,100 or $2,200 a month. So I'm upside down like $100, $200, right? And I move into he's like, where are you moving? I'm like, I'm gonna become an investor. Trust me, watch. So I move out. I moved to month-to-month housing in Virginia. He's like, why are you moving to month-to-month housing? It's like I gotta make it work. So, and of course in that marketplace in Virginia, the bottom of the housing market just fell out. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden there's this rush of people that want to rent. Because I don't know if you guys realize, but typically the rental market sort of is in advance of the single family market. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the bottom had already fallen out in the apartment market, and there's all these people like looking for rentals, and there's like one place that wants to rent to me month to month. Mm-hmm. So I get this place month to month, and it might have been about 2 months later, I did this mentoring program up in Maryland, and I go through how to become an investor. I'm like, man, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I got to give it a shot.
Right.
And I start putting bandit signs out. It's like early 2008 now, and I'm starting to put bandit signs out. Living in this month-to-month apartment. They actually kicked me out of the month-to-month. I have to go to another one. Oh. Well, in the middle of
the struggle is real, huh?
in the middle of doing my first bandit sign campaign, I'm kicked out of the place. I got to go to a new place because the old place they're gonna demo it and like totally level it down and build a new one.
Oh my god!
So I move into another month-to-month place for like 6 months, right off of Wilson Boulevard. The place was like this. This apartment was wrecked.
Yeah.
I remember my mom visiting me actually once, and she went to some conference in downtown DC from Seattle. She's like, I want to see where you live. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? The second place, I mean, I had like roaches on the. It was horrible. The place was horrible. Somebody wanted to beat me up in the laundry room, like doing my clothes. But in the middle of it all, you know, I'd gone through this like mentoring program, still working in the government, and did my bandit sign campaign along Route 50 in Falls Church, Virginia.
Okay.
And lo and behold, about 2-3 months into my campaign, this gentleman calls me in Falls Church, and he's like, I want $450 for my house. I'm like, well, can I come see it? And, you know, I didn't understand how this business works. Right. So I'm like, I got to see everything. I got to feel this guy out. I'm like, look at the instruction manual. Let me go talk to him and say X, Y, and Z questions.
Take a look at the script. And remember, your background is you went to school. You got what degree did you? So for people that have a little.
So I was a high tech guy, electrical engineer. Worked in hardcore research. I did wireless communication, signal processing.
So you're a data gathering, analyzing.
I'm a data guy. I'm like the guy like Christian, like don't freaking talk to me, Christian.
So which comes to it's a good attribute, because when you're at the end of the day we all analyze deals, right? We'll look at how much is it making, what's the operational cost, what's my net income, what's my debt, right? My yearly debt service. So ultimately there's different variables. So you did that and you have a background on that. So what happens after that? Let's say you lived on that apartment.
So I tell you, this guy calls me up one day. He's like, I want $450 for the house. Like, this is my first deal. I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell this guy. Like, how do I talk to him? I don't even have the money. Like, how am I going to pay him? You're supposed all the gurus tell you to pay cash. Like, how am I going to pay this guy cash? Anyway, so I go and meet with this guy. Like a lot of sellers, like the environment even today, it's the same thing. I mean, unfortunately, the community's getting older. There's a lot of older folks that, just like this gentleman today, I mean, they owe nothing on their properties, 100% equity. They're retiring, they're downsizing, relocating. The houses haven't been updated, oftentimes in 20, 30 years. Same sort of scenario. So I go and meet this guy, for the first time, and the house has like a hole through the floor. It's like there's probably like 6 or 7 cans of prune juice on a green fridge.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm like, holy cow, man! I think that month-to-month apartment looks good right now. Like this place is like I got to deodorize after I leave this place. Right, the house is wrecked. There's a hole through the bathroom floor, like in front of the toilet. Lo and behold, it takes like, I guess you're gonna call this my first ever deal, but it takes me about 6-7 months, and he goes from $450 literally to $400 to $350 to $300 to $275, and now we're like coming up on Thanksgiving, like 6 months later, 2008 time frame. Okay. And he's like gone and nowhere to be found. And his last number that he told me was $275, and I'm like, man, I'm working in the government. I'm upside down $200 a month on this condo, and my budget right now max is $235. I can only give you $235 for this house. Take it or leave it. And for like 6 months, he's telling me no. He finally leaves, like, I think it's October, November, he leaves. I can't get him. I'm like, man, where the heck did this guy go? And I shoot him a letter in the mail, postal service. And I'm like, this is gone. Like, this is never going to happen for me. He writes me back from the beach in Delaware that he's willing to take $250, but not a penny less. It goes on for another like month, and we finally settled on $235 with $5K help. Okay. And that was a done deal.
Now let me ask you this: how did you acquire that deal? What's the ARV on that deal?
So this is how I actually got the confidence to do more deals. I actually moved into this property. I ended up fixing this property with it was like a 30K rehab, not a great rehab, but 30K rehab. Moved in. I'm like, man, I knew nothing about construction, right?
Okay, so how did you acquire that? How did you finance this deal?
Just a regular loan. Just a regular loan from a bank. Correct.
Was it a 2 or 3K or regular FHA? Do you know? Like did the bank loan?
It was a loan that the bank should never probably give. So
it was like it slid past through the FHA.
They should never have financed this deal, but
so you did. So after you fixed it up, you said you bought it for $235. You put in about 30. How much was the ARV after, like about?
Probably 380ish at that time, 400ish.
Okay.
That's my first deal.
Right. So you lived there for how long?
So I go back to work. I'm still at work, right?
Okay.
And I talked to my buddy at work, and he's an engineer just like me. I'm like, Joe, like, I'm telling you, this business actually works. Like, look, I got this house. Like, we got this house for $235, put 30 in, it's worth $380.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, I always want to do something like that too. Like, I've always been interested in real estate. It's like, yeah, we could be like the newbies together. Like, let's go out and freaking crush it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're talking about it.
Uh-huh.
And I would say all the stuff that I learned from that mentor, another 6.5 months probably went by. And we're like, Joe and I we're in all the places in DC in like 2009 time frame that you don't want to be. The bottom had fallen out. Express Home Buyers is flipping probably 30 houses a month in Capitol Heights, District Heights, all these areas in DC that are way better today than they were back then. And Joe's like, man, I don't want to get out of the car. I mean, we started going like, we started spending probably our entire Saturdays looking at properties. Then it was like Saturday and Sunday. Then it was like every day after work we go out to like areas and look at properties. Then it was like, man, 11 o'clock, lunchtime, let's go. So like it became an addiction to the point where we were looking at properties every freaking day. Any waking minute that we had, we're spending probably 40 hours at work and 30 hours outside of work looking at properties. And then about 6.5 months later, realtor calls us up out of the blue. She knows we've been looking for properties for months. It's like, these guys are the classic looky-loos, right? They look and look and look, but never buy. And she finally calls up. It's like one evening after work, I get out of the lab. She's like, there's a video about this actually online. Her name's Lita. Lita calls me up. She's like, look, I got a deal. It's in Arlington. It's an REO. It's $175. The price is firm. And trust me, if you don't buy this, nothing I bring you will ever work for you. So we go home that night. We think about it. We're tossing and turning. We're like, man, 175. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe yes. Maybe no. Maybe yes. From 5, I'm calling Joe like 11 o'clock, 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning. We're talking. Like, fine. You know what? If we're not going to do this one, like we got to finally go out on a limb and like take a chance and do something. So we take a chance. We risk it all. We do the deal, and literally it's like a $35,000 rehab. We finish it in like 4 or 5 weeks, and we sell the property for $349.
Wow.
Our first deal, literally from acquisition to resale, we make, I think it was about $110,000 in 65 days. That's like that's our first deal.
Wow.
And from there, I'm like, see, Joe, I told you this freaking business can work.
Yeah, I knew that all along. So that's insane. That's crazy. That's very, very unique that you're able to do that. Your first deal, you made $100K.
2 weeks later, we're closing our next one, owner financing, about the same result. 3 months done, we made like $120K on the second deal. 2-3 weeks out of that one, we're making like 100-something K on the third deal.
So, and then from there, you started investing more and heavily.
For 6 years, we just grew it and grew it and grew it. And unfortunately, I think the lesson that I have to tell people is, I did that business with Joe for 6 years part-time. And we probably did more. At one point, we were all over the map. We did wholesale deals in PG County, Montgomery County. We did rehabs in Montgomery, rehabs in PG. We were all over the place in DC. And it came down to the fact that we're like, we're doing this part-time. If we're really going to make this work, we have to be really time efficient. More so than anybody who even does it full-time. We have to be really time efficient. So I'm like, okay, I'm in Falls Church. I see the opportunity. It's in my backyard. If we're really going to really scale this and grow to some point, let's just focus where we are and utilize as much resources and time as we have where we are today. And so at that point, we just went a different direction, and all we did was deals in Falls Church, roughly. Falls Church, Annandale, we did for about 4 or 5 years. And we were like the company in Falls Church, Annandale. If there was a deal, it was for us. 56 rehabs between, I would say, 2010 to 2014, all in Falls Church and Annandale. Rehabs, build-outs, land, wholesales, wholetails. And then 2014, I got to a point where I just got frustrated with everything in my life, personally.
And that was 3 years ago, you're saying?
About 4 years ago now. 4 years ago now. I got frustrated with the business, got frustrated, everything. Everything was just like, we're making great money. I mean, the two of us
Was it just too much work and you were kind of pressured? Is that what it is? Or how did that feeling start?
If you can imagine in your life, everything just comes crashing down. Your personal life goes to hell in a handbasket. Everything just like crashes around you. It got to a point in our life, everything was like that. And we're like, man, what do we do? I mean, this is two guys who are both hardcore engineers, very analytical.
That's the unique part about Josh. Yeah.
And we were probably people had no idea, because the two of us were, we're both pretty humble guys. We probably made like 3 to 4 times what our government salaries were part-time.
At that time, yeah.
And we never changed our lifestyle. So we're like, people had no idea like what we were doing or how much we were making or how successful we'd become.
Yeah.
We're like, man, I'm like, Joe, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm like, I'm burnt out. I'm tired. And I'm like, it's like, we can't leave our job. We feel tied to our job. For whatever reason, we never felt like we could quit.
Yeah, that's the interesting part.
Even though as much money as we were making, as successful as we become, we never felt like we could quit. And I had a revelation. So 2014, we're like, you know what, let's just throw our hands in there and like forget it, because I can't do it anymore. So 2 of us quit. And I call my sister like 2-3 months later, and I'm talking to her one day, and she's like working at a corporate job. My sister was like a VP of like business development for a major firm, and she has an MBA from MIT. And I'm like, she's one of the people that I lean on.
Wow, yeah.
I'm like, somebody who's extremely smart. I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, well, let me look at your financials and everything, and let me look at your business operation. She's like, you guys made a lot of money, but you never really treated this like a business. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean you never treat like I'm like, what do you mean you guys never treat this like a business? She's like, well, a business has like tracks their results. A business has marketing. They have operations. They track what they do. They scale on whether something they do works or doesn't work. I'm like, we never had that. For 6 years, even though we made a lot of money, we were always chasing like, we got that deal here, we got this deal there.
Would you say maybe the timing on the marketplace, and maybe there were a flow of deals for everybody to pick and choose? I'm just assuming. Do you think that could help you? That maybe I'm not taking away some of the things that you've done, but I'm saying it was easier than if the market right now, for instance.
So I'll tell you something. So on some respects, the experience that we had together. When I look at investors today, if you haven't been in the business for 10 years and you haven't experienced the different phases of the cycle, you don't really see the big picture as of yet. You don't understand what it feels like. So like when Joe and I started, I mean, prices were still dropping 1% a month. Go try to do a flip on a property where prices are dropping on you 1% a month and see how that feels versus a market today where, even if you mess up, I mean, prices still continue to rise.
Yeah.
Somebody who's seen this market for 10 years or even 20 years, the experience level that they have, what they've seen, you can't compare that to somebody who's only been on the gravy train for 3 to 4 years. So while we have like practical real life experience, we know how it feels to like, your business model changes when you're losing 1% value a month. You don't look at things the same way. You don't analyze things the same way. It's a lot harder to make money in that type of market versus now, obviously. But that part of the business isn't what really held us back. It was more, we never treated the business like a business. And so in 2014, everything got blown up and we started it all over again. As much success as we'd had, as much money as we'd made, started everything all over again from scratch. And that sense of it was like, we have to have reliable customer base. Any business has to have a reliable customer base. You have to have a proven system with proven results. So we started doing, a lot of people say, for example, direct marketing doesn't work, or web advertising doesn't work, or cold calling doesn't work. The harsh reality is that no marketing for any business works unless you do it the right way. Unless you do it the right way, which is sort of what we were talking about earlier over dinner. Do you have a highly filtered list of people who need your service? That's a starting point. Have you filtered down a list of people who need your service? And how targeted really is it? Is it a good list of people? Second, what's your message? Do you have a good message for those people? And third, do you target those people with consistency? Are you following up? Are you consistently hitting them? And when they finally respond to your message, are you following up? If you don't have those 4 pieces,
it's beautifully put. Yeah.
Your marketing is garbage.
Yep.
And you don't have you really don't have a business. You don't have a business at that point. And so like for 6 years on our marketing, that's an example of our marketing. So our marketing was not done as a business. Our marketing was done more like, hey Christian, you got a house you want to sell? we're buying the neighborhood, we're interested. It was more word of mouth, which worked because of the time of the marketplace. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking, because the timing and the market, that worked beautifully. But what you're saying is you got burnt out maybe because there was a lot of more work, perhaps, or maybe other things.
There was no consistency. Yeah. There was no rhyme or reason to what we did. There was no consistency. Okay. There's no trackable results. There was nothing to say, this works and that doesn't, or stop doing that and focus more on this, or scale this part of your business and slow that one down. There was no delegation. Today it's myself. I'm the president and co-founder of the company. My sister's our COO. We have a director of acquisitions. We have an acquisitions team.
What's the company name for everybody that's
DC First Properties. So if you go to www.dcfirstproperties.com, we're one of the more active rehab developers in the Washington D.C. region. We're engaged in everything from wholesales to hotels, fix and flip, some build outs, some new construction, not as much now, just based on where the market is. And we're doing some land development as well, land flips.
So where's DC Properties from? You said you started in 2014, 15?
So we reinvented the company as DC First Properties in 2014 because initially I thought, sort of small. I thought, we're going to be another company that just does quick cash closes. But, I started reading all these books from Jeff Bezos and all the great entrepreneurs that you read about, the Howard Schultzes of the world. Yeah. Any great entrepreneur envisions their company today, what it'll look like 20 to 30 years from now. So when we went back and restarted DC First Properties, we didn't envision ourselves to be a fix and flipper for the long haul. We envisioned ourselves to be a major commercial buy and hold, major commercial developer. And I think that's the direction we're heading now. But it takes unless like we talked about in the preview video, unless you come from a family like Trump's kids or Kushner's family, or you already are connected in that society. I mean, it's very hard for the average person
to jump into scaled up.
I think a big thing that so many things gurus tell people, a lot of it can be true and a lot of it can be misleading. But I mean, for myself and my partner, and even now today, of course we're in a different position now than we were 6 years ago, 10 years ago. And that is, today we're a bankable company. Community banks will easily lend to us commercial lines of credit, 5%.
Oh, okay.
When you cross a certain line in terms of liquidity and net worth and experience,
it helps greatly.
All of a sudden now you're a bankable company. But in the beginning, nobody's a bankable company. I mean, you're lucky if a hard money lender even wants to lend you money. So getting over that hump, I mean, unless you're unless you're already connected in sort of that society of accredited investors or sophisticated investors, it's very hard to, get legs behind you.
Gotcha. So DC Properties, how many properties? Where is it today? Like, how many deals are you doing?
We're averaging somewhere in the low 30s annual, but we're very selective about what we do. I'm not the type of investor who ever wants to go into a deal that I'm very conservative about how we do deals. We want to make sure that our investors are protected. Whoever is putting money in that deal, whether it's a lender or a partner, we're not just taking any old property up. We're making sure that this is going to be a winning property for us. And if it's not, and there's been very few, hundreds of deals later, 10 years down the line now, I can only think of maybe one property that's been questionable for us. And that one property, we made sure that that partner in that project got paid. Even though I don't think I made a dime on the deal, but our partner made the money.
Good.
But yeah, we're very selective about what we do. We're probably in the low 30s. Average deal size anywhere from 80 to 150. I actually closed one this morning that was probably 6 years of salary of what I used to make in the government. But those are far and few between. But
right,
we're roughly a 7-figure plus profit per quarter company today.
Wow.
No.
So you guys are doing a lot of flips over there, and I think it's quite unique that you come from an engineer background, and I like the whole story how you partner up with your was it your friend, right, your coworker?
Coworker, yeah.
And he actually was he listened, right? He listened, and then you guys partner up, and then has this whole
usually
adventure.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah, that doesn't usually happen. Were you guys very close at the time?
So he's actually still involved in real estate today.
Oh, wow.
He's getting his master's in real estate development.
Okay.
We're still very close. We're talking about partnering on deals together.
That's awesome.
But we're also looking at doing multifamilies, $2-3 million acquisitions, and tertiary markets today is sort of what part of our focus is.
And then actually after you partner up and you grew your business, and now you DC, you see DC Properties. I see you in social media, which by the way, you guys should check it out if you want to learn. I mean, you're everywhere in there, and I very much like that. So we know who you are now, and I think a very unique story. I think it gives a lot of people out there that are watching some confidence, some social proof. That's what it is, because they see, okay, look, some of them might be a 9 to 5, just like where you were 8, 9 years ago, and now they're saying, wait, he did it, I can do it too. So I think it's very, very cool. I like your story a lot. Now, the second phase of the show, we want to talk about, kind of touch base. We want to kind of pick your brain when it comes to all the way from lead acquisition, because I think from the conversation we're having, you are very good at it. Lead acquisition all the way to obviously the sale and making the money.
Sure.
So let's start really quick on lead generation. For people that are watching, what are some of the things that you do right now that's working on your business that people could imitate in their own markets?
So I think, lead generation is kind of an art. It's also a science as well. And there's two different main approaches to lead generation. And that is like, you can either farm an area and you can own it. So like when we were new and we didn't have a lot of money to put into, paid for marketing, that's when our, realization was that, we need to focus in on a very strategic area. We picked Falls Church.
Okay.
And so Falls Church, we got to the point in Falls Church where it was like, we knew every street, we knew every property, we knew every type of property, whether it was a Cape Cod, whether it was a Rambler, we knew everything about Falls Church inventory better than almost probably anyone in that marketplace.
And what was the population? At the time, like just a ballpark figure?
So the part of Falls Church that we focused on was the area outside Falls Church City.
Okay.
So that's the other part of your business I didn't mention. We picked a model very early on. A lot of people just are like, we're going to do everything.
Right. That's exactly what most people do.
Part of the problem with a lot of people that get in this business is they don't have a clear picture of what is they're going to do. And from day one, our model was, we're not going to touch luxury projects. And we're not really going to focus on holding single family homes, because I've had enough experience with that. I don't want to be a landlord and tenants and toilets. So our model was specifically, we're going to make a very large active income. And at some point down the line, we're going to transition that to commercial, where it's paid for professional commercial management. Right. So our model was only do properties that are not luxury, that sell in the DC marketplace in what we call like B- or B+, maybe A- neighborhoods, or areas that are transitioning in the right direction. You see the path of progress. Only those areas, where you're going to sell not luxury property up to maybe $750,000, $800K resale, and that was our model. Buy, sell in those areas.
Okay, in Fairfax, outside of
Fairfax County, primarily at that point Falls Church, and that model sort of progressed now to other areas of DC in the last 4 years. But at that time, we farmed Falls Church, only do projects that sell under $750,000, because as you know, like once you get above in the DC market, once you get above $1 million resale, it's a totally different pool of buyers. They're a lot pickier. They want warranties. They're very picky on inspections. Only 5% can afford to buy it. Your days on market is higher. So we had a very strategic model. This is where we're going to work. This is where we're going to canvas. This is where we're going to farm. This is what we're going to do. This is the extent of the rehab we're willing to put in. This is our time frame on the project. And our typical time frame in those years was like no more than 3 to 6 months. Because in real estate investing, time is your biggest risk. Time is where your marketplace can change on you. You get into a different phase of the cycle, and all of a sudden, like what you have going on, interest rates are higher, the buyers drop out. Whatever can happen. Time is not your friend, typically speaking, especially as a developer. So we picked our model, picked our farm, and we worked that farm like crazy. And that was when we had no money to put aside for marketing budget. So when you don't have money, in my opinion, that's what you do. You're constantly hustling.
I agree with that. So one thing for people that are watching, so if you can take one thing away so far, is being targeted, right? It's like you were saying, like target the audience. The more you focus on one specific area, well, you said farming. When you farm that area, the neighborhoods, you know the prices. So whenever you meet with the seller, you already know, you have this information in the back of your head. You'll know the market very well. And I think that gives you a competitive advantage. Then if you did all of it, and now you have to do some research before you meet the guy, and with time is important. So be very targeted with your marketing. I think it's beautiful.
So take a step one more backwards. Yeah. You need a business plan. Mm-hmm. You need a model of what you're going to do. And you need an investment criteria, like how much are you going to expect to make? What's your expected return going to be? Mm-hmm. Because if you can't define all these things, then how do you know if what you're looking at fits what you're going to do? Mm. Most people get in this business, they don't have a focus of what they're going to do, and they don't have a model to define what it is they're going after. Mm. So make sure you know exactly what every other business in the world has a business plan from day one. Every other business in the world defines a model of what they do. Mm. But somehow when people get into real estate, they somehow get, all these really smart people somehow get stupid, like, we'll just go out and buy this, or we'll just go out and buy that. Define what it is you want to do. The more defined it is, the more successful you'll be. And with our very limited amount of time back in 2010, 2014, how is it two full-time engineers could be, probably the most successful flippers in Falls Church, doing 56 projects? How can it be? Because we had a very defined model of what it is we were going to do. We're going to do that, but we're not going to do this. We're going to do that, but we're not going to do that.
You had a vision and a clear kind of path of where you wanted to walk in. I think that's beautiful.
I'm over here just shaking my head and not saying much because everything that he's describing is what we're going through as a company, getting more defined, we're just getting more arrowed with what we're doing. So when we started out, we were like that. And then there was like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. And then we started going in every different direction.
So no go with, everything, because there might be different opportunities, but once you know how to profit on the right opportunities that come along your way.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, every business in the world, they're not like, Christian, I do this, I do that, I do that, I do this, I do this, I do this. Every business in the world, if you think about it, they have sort of their bread and butter go-to. And they hone it, they make it better, they focus it in, they narrow it. They in our world, our pro forma gets more defined and tighter. We can do it for this, but we can't do it for that. We know because of this block and this location, this type of construction, we'll definitely sell it for that in 25 days. Your pro forma gets really tight, the more focused you become. And unfortunately, like I've led our group, DMV Dealmakers, for 2 years now, and I've seen some people just blow it out of the park. And I've seen a lot of people not, because a lot of people just can't get started, or they do, but they can't get focused. It's like there's all these distractions. We call it Javier in our office calls it butterflies, but it's like the next great butterfly goes by, and before you know it, instead of doing this, they're over there doing that.
That's so important. I learned, I'm a real estate agent, so my niche is multifamily. And I think I'm more successful than any agent around, just because I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I want to specialize in Hagerstown. So I've accomplished a lot more than another agent that would be doing residential, commercial. So it is absolutely 100% true. It's an easy and simple idea to understand, but people don't apply it. And
I honestly think like you have to, whatever it is you're going to really focus in on, you sort of have to own that model. Yeah. And once you own that model, and you have people in place that can sort of turnkey that model for you, I think only then, at that point and only then, you decide, we're going to branch out and do this other thing, because now, we have the resources to be able to go out and do this, because we're already doing this successfully. And I think that's where our business is right now as DC First Properties. We really understand the model that we're good at doing. We also understand the model that we're not great at doing. We're good at this model. And now we know, we have the money connections, we know how to negotiate, we know how to do all the due diligence, all the pieces of the puzzle that you need as an investor. We sort of mastered those as a flipper, and a lot of them apply to almost every other thing that you do as an investor. So now we're like, let's go out to markets where it makes sense right now and do commercial deals because we can. But I think that's what most newer investors lack, is the focus and the vision to really hone in and define it.
So okay,
I think it's very
good.
It's super
very
important.
Good. So for you, that is such a beautiful foundation for people to get on, to basically be targeted, be specific, and find your niche or find your your market and just hone in on that.
Yeah, so to come back around to that, for the person that doesn't have that much money to start what they're doing, when you say farm area, do you suggest that they're out there door knocking, flyers, cold calls? Like, what would you suggest?
I suggest that they tell everyone in their warm network, friends, family, close network, everyone that they know, that they're investors, that whatever it is they're going to do. Are you going to buy properties and renovate? Are you going to buy properties and hold? Are you doing lease option? Whatever it is that you pick as your focus area, you tell everyone that you know in your warm network, in your farm area, that's what I do. Whatever you are. I'm a realtor. Yeah. I sell houses in this area. I don't do luxury, but I do this model. I'm really good at selling this type of property. Whatever it is that you do, first of all, tell everyone that you do it, that you know that you do it. Tell everyone in your community that you're farming that you do it. And if you start to have money to sort of paid for marketing, which is sort of where businesses progress to, which we didn't have in the beginning. I mean, now we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars every month in paid for marketing. But when you get to that point, now you're strategically, whether it's through the web or whether it's through print media or whatever it is, now you're strategically, spending your resources to focus in on people that meet your criteria. So when you get money to actually pay for marketing, that's what you're doing with it. But until that point,
you have to walk the neighborhoods, put signs, kind of let everybody know your market, your target.
You're hustling. You're just hustling and hustling and hustling.
Yeah.
It's a word of mouth game. I mean, you're telling the mailman, you're telling the bartender at the bar, you're telling the barbershop lady. You have to get outside the box, get beyond your fear. A lot of people overcomplicate the business of real estate investing. They're afraid to talk to people. You sort of have to get out of the way of yourself. I mean, why is it that some people can blow up overnight and others can't? And I think the harsh reality is that this person can't get beyond getting started. Some people overthink it, they overread it, they get too nervous, they're shy, they make excuses why tomorrow, not today. The person who, when I wanted to leave my full-time job and transition out and move beyond, I was willing to do whatever it took. I would do whatever it took to make it happen. If that meant me having to work 2 full-time jobs, I would do it. If that meant me talking to and being embarrassed by rejection by the barbershop guy or the mailman, if I had to hear 100 no's from people and have them laugh at me for putting bandit signs out, whatever it took, I would do it. I had no fear at all of rejection or being ridiculed or whatever. Because quite honestly, 10 years later now, if you're a successful investor like you guys are, 10 years later, it was worth it, right? I mean, hearing all that ridicule for all those years, whatever it was.
Yeah, for me, it was more like the cold
call it the fire. I call it the fire. Yes, and I think that's important also, like you said, being around and just feeling the crushing feeling, or what I call is the fire, because you're going to have those moments. I've definitely had those of something may not go right or rejection or whatever it is. You're definitely going to feel that, but it's experience that you're picking up along the way, which when you're on the phone with somebody, you're going to be able to pick up immediately if they've went through those experiences out here investing also.
So we touched a little bit on lead generation. Now let's move on to, after you lead generate, you get these people calling you, right? So how do you start the process of and again, you've done a lot of fix and flips in DC, so it's a different market obviously than Hagerstown or anywhere else. So tell us a little bit about how you go ahead and you start negotiating with the seller.
So honestly, this is also where your business starts to grow. And in the beginning, so not to cut off the subject, but so I've been to a lot of national conferences over the years. I've been to everybody's conference, from the Real Estate Radio guys to the Dave Lindalls. I've been to all these different conferences, and you hear different people say things. And I don't remember who said this, but I think Dave Lindahl said this in a room full of 100, very strong investors. He's like, how many of you guys in the room today are 4.0 GPAs? How many of you guys went to college and got 4.0? He's like, raise your hand. So all these people eagerly raise their hand, right? I was a 4.0 in college, right? He's like, now sit down. He's like, you guys are gonna struggle. He's like, you guys are gonna have a hard time figuring it out. And the harsh reality of it is the people, and I see that too now, it's the people that have good grades in school, they're always trying to, they're like, I'm gonna be smart about this. I'm gonna figure out everything on my own. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, like those of us who had good grades in school or came from good backgrounds, great educations, like we're the type of people a lot of times that are like, I don't need, Charlie's help. I don't need Christian's help. I'm gonna, if these guys can figure out, I'm gonna figure out everything on my own. I'm gonna go home and study it all, right? Real estate's not that type of business, like where you can just go home and study from a textbook. You need real mentoring. You need people like you guys to teach you about property management, teach you about how to sell a multi-unit,
tenant placement, and all
whatever it is. You need real mentoring. And so like when I started to grow the business with my sister, it's like we need to get the right people in here in the right positions. And like I'm not the guy. I can do it. I don't like doing it, and I'm probably not the best guy that's ever. My team's probably listening tonight. Hopefully not, but I'm not the best guy to take the phone calls. I'm just not the guy. I mean, for cold calling and like inbound traffic, I'm not the best guy on the phone. And I probably wouldn't have admitted that to you like 4 or 5 years ago. But today, like, you find the people to fit the right positions. You find the person who's good on appointments. You find the person who's good taking the inbound cold calls. You find the person who's good at analyzing the deals. You find the person who's good at project managing contractors. You find the person who's good at property management. All these different pieces that you need. You find the person who's good at raising money. All those different pieces of your business that are pretty much relevant in any investment business, no matter what asset class it is. You need to find the people and fit them to the position, and not everybody's going to be the right fit. So, sort of long story short, to get back to your question, you put the right person on the call.
You delegate.
You get your best person taking that inbound cold call. You get your best person doing your outbound cold calling, and you have those people who are already somewhat good in sales sort of figure out what the situation is. And if there's any inclination of, for example, if we get, we're probably at this point today getting 10 to 20 calls a day. And based on those calls, if we get any inclination, a lot of them are tire kickers. If we get any inclination that, this person, definitely wants to sell and is going to be half-foot reasonable about the price, if you don't have a motivated buyer and a motivated seller, you can't make a transaction happen. If a property's only worth $500,000 and the person's holding out for $1 million, then why are you wasting your time? But if they have any inclination of being realistic about the price of their home, and our callers are sophisticated enough at this point with their training to pick up on that. We're setting an appointment tomorrow or the next day if we can to go out there.
Quick, time is important, so you got to
get out there as soon as possible with these people. And the other thing is, like, people will call you on the phone. There's different categories of sellers. There's really hot sellers. There's lukewarm sellers. There's mild or whatever you want to call that, and there's cold. And you can potentially convert a lukewarm seller into a really hot seller with the right sort of someone who answers that call and sort of talks to them the appropriate way versus someone who doesn't. Someone who's sort of only lukewarm, and you get the appointment with them and you sort of feel out what's really pressing them, what's really behind their situation. Some lukewarm sellers can become hot like overnight. So you need the right person asking the right questions.
Which comes, a lot of people are asking, even myself, talent acquisition, right? I love the fact that you said delegation in any business is important. But how is it that you're able to hire the person, these salespeople that is going to just call, be persistent on it? Or how do you hire the secretary that's going to take the calls, be patient with people?
So honestly, like... The 4.0 student mentality, like it takes a while for guys like me to figure that out, and I can't tell you that we've had the best hires over the last 3 years.
It's one of the most difficult things.
That's a whole other beast.
Our team though today, and I hope they're listening, because our team right now, we have the best team by far that we've ever had. We have the right people doing the right things, and it takes a while to really get in this business and hone your game. It takes if you're a caller, even if you come from sales, in my opinion, it takes 6 to 7 months to really, really hone your game on the phone. So we have people on our team that are really honing their game. I've seen like huge improvement in the last few months. And I think we have the right people in the right positions, and I think when you do that, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for us where we can go right now, just on the people that we have in the positions that they're doing.
Because they have the potential and they're working on what they're meant to do in the goals.
And I think the other aspect of that also is once you get the right people, and if you guys are listening, I hope you are, we want to keep you guys around. And in order to keep people around, I've read all sorts of books about this. Like, to keep the best talent in your company, it has to be a win-win for them. I mean, they have to feel like, you know, they're getting increasing responsibility, they're going to grow into bigger roles in your firm, and they're going to get better compensation. And the reality is, like, if you're a good business of any industry, if you're doing good in whatever industry you're doing, the potential of your business as a collective group is way higher than any of your employees as individual, you know, people. Like, if you went out and did your own thing and he went out and did his own thing, you guys might do okay together, but you know, all 10 of us combined, all doing our thing together and really, you know, fitting the pieces well, we're gonna blow it out of the park as a unit.
I think so.
Versus as one of us trying to go do a deal there, and you know, you're trying to go struggle and fill all the roles on that one. It's just, that's part of why, like, after 6 years we like burn out, because we were just two guys, like, with not really understanding what the roles were, how to delegate it. We just burnt out because we're always chasing everything that would come up versus, like, who's doing your marketing, who's doing your operations, who's doing your project management. You know, that's why businesses fail, because you just can't get the right people in the right positions and really do it well.
So when you're hiring, so do you ask questions, do interviews, etc.? You know?
So that's been an ongoing process, and that is what we do now.
Okay.
Our director of acquisitions has really helped us with that. We have a 20-step process in terms of what questions we ask.
You have to filter. Yeah, they're not like anything in sales, tenant placement. You have to do the same thing.
But I will tell you one thing.
Yeah.
And I heard this before. Like, it's the same question that comes back to, you know, where do you find investors? Where do you find investors in this business? Where do you find investors for your projects? That's the ultimate question people ask for years, right? And I read all sorts of books over the years about this subject. But the hard reality of it is, places like DMV Dealmakers, places where people come who are already predispositioned to wanting to do real estate, whether they're doing it already or they're not. I can tell you right now that people who come out to our event once a month to hear superstar investor speakers once a month, they're already predispositioned to wanting to do real estate investing. So you go to a re-event, you go to a Dealmaker event, you go to anything real estate related, you've already got a captured audience in the room of people who either they're doing deals or they want to do deals. So the same way that I would tell you, you know, what better place to take someone to coffee than 5 people who are already interested in going to a real estate investing event. The same way you get people who want to invest in your projects, the same way you can find great talent for your organization. I mean, if someone's at your event wanting to change their job, transition into a new career, you know, they're there for a reason. They're not there to, I mean, there might be a certain pool there just like looking and feeling out, but the ones who are serious in that group, and we found a lot of those actually, the ones who are serious in that group, they're not there just to like mess around. They want to actually transition into a new role. So it comes back to the same things, you know, the Indeed.com of the world, great real estate investment networking events, for almost anything that you need for your business, to be quite honest with you. Yeah.
Finding them in the right. I think that's a great point.
Finding them in the right environment.
In the right environment.
And at the end of the day, what I've really found, this is somebody who we spent a lot of money on people that we shouldn't have the last 3 years. A lot of money we've lost on people we shouldn't have. And I think at the end of the day, it ultimately comes down to, you can hire the most talented person out there, and that's great. But is that person, are they going to be honest and trustworthy and loyal? Because if that great talent that you found is not going to be honest and trustworthy and loyal, it's going to end up costing you way more money than it was ever worth, because that person, maybe they're going to go around your back, they're going to steal your deal. You know, just like any business, what does Starbucks do? They have cameras behind the cash register, because they know, you know, a certain percentage of the money is going to get stolen on a daily basis by their employees. So, you know, it's the same thing. It comes back to, you have to gauge whether is it the best talent or the most trustworthy and loyal people that I want to hire?
So you want a balance, right? You definitely want somebody.
There's a delicate balance there. There's a delicate balance there because you can have somebody that's very high talented, but maybe the morals are not there, or maybe they're making some decisions that are not in the best interest of your company, and that puts you in the wrong. There's definitely a balance, and then it's learning, like he said, the balance of people that you want on your team. And everybody that's out there that's going to scale up your business, just know it's going to be a learning. You're going to learn. There's going to be some stuff that you you're going to fail at times, but then reach out to somebody like yourself, somebody like me, Cristhian, to maybe speed up that process of learning so you don't learn the hard way.
Having your mentors, reading books.
I mean, realistically, I come from like a musical background, and anybody comes from like a sports or music background gets it, because it's like, what band do you go listen to? What rock band would you go see with 5 people up on stage where there's one person who absolutely sucks? You go listen to a band and that one guitar player is just like, you know, he's just like out of tune. His rhythm sucks.
That's a good metaphor.
You're like, man, this all of a sudden, like, that band on stage is like terrible. The other 4 could be like crushing it, but that one guy over there is, you know, bringing down the whole team.
And I think a good quality would be to look at this at your company from far away and be like, you know what? I think this is the piece that's holding down. Let's get rid of it and get somebody in there and test it out. So I guess you got to find it. Right? You got to do
just like sports or music. If everybody's operating on your team at a high level, then as a unit, you guys can go far. But
that's
I mean,
incredible.
You got 1 or 2 that are not cutting it. All of a sudden, the whole thing is not cutting it.
Because then it bleeds into the next person, the next person.
Which Josh, Sarah kind of says DMV deal makers for the win. That's what she says.
DMV deal makers for the win.
Thanks, Sarah. Josh, thanks for showing up. He says, lead gen, pick up the 500-pound phone. Right people at the right seats on the bus. Cristhian says, I like it. Jonathan, thanks. Jorge, thanks for showing up. Alice, Arky, Duke, Haley, Zach. What's going on, Zach? Riz, what's going on? He's a new investor. He's actually just getting his 4 unit here in Hagerstown. Amir, thanks for showing up. Steffi, Jeff, thank you. Okay, so we got a couple people here.
I think lead gen, by the way, you have to qualify lead gen. I mean, you have to, first of all, you have to define what business you're going to be doing. If you're doing buy and hold multi versus fix and flip, or you're doing value add commercial deals, I mean, your lead generation changes based on what it is you're targeting. So
it depends on who's in the other side of the phone.
You can't just take real estate investing and throw everything into one tool. It's it comes back to, you know, put together a business plan, develop your model. It's going to change over time, but you know as well as I do, lead gen on the commercial side, a lot of that is, you know, it's pocket listing, broker driven versus like.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So
you have to, you know, either it's through network that you know you've done deals with many other sellers in the marketplace. People know you. I mean, there's many ways, but you're right about that. Pocket listings is huge. So we talked about, we went through lead generation, now talent and acquisition, for delegation when it comes to the processes of going out and reaching out to the seller. What about the actual process of fixing up the property? I mean, what have you learned on that? The biggest, if you can give us 3 things for people to take home.
So I've had a lot of mentors over the years. Okay. I think it's critically important that you don't get too, you know, a lot of investors in this world get too cocky. They have 3-4 years of success in an upward market and it goes to their head, they get an ego. In my opinion, you have to stay grounded. First of all, you have to stay grounded in this business because things change overnight. Every deal is a little bit different, and you always should be seeking out new mentors and reading continuously. What do you hear about Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett spends 50% of his day, you know, reading about, you know, companies he's thinking about investing in, marketplaces. If as a real estate investor, you're not spending probably 40 to 50% of your day learning, then you're not growing as an investor.
I like that.
There's always something out there that you need to be like tweaking or refining or getting better at. But in terms of mentorship, the best mentor I've had, and I hope he's watching tonight. He's probably not. He's probably like So this guy's been building for 40 years. Terry, if you're watching, this is for you. Terry, to be quite honest with you, I got in this business like a lot of people. I'm like, I don't know a thing about construction. 2x4s, okay, great. We'll go to Home Depot and buy some 2x4s or drywall. The harsh reality of things is that most people do construction, but don't understand construction. The things that really matter in construction, nobody talks about. And that is the planning phase, the permit phase, the due diligence phase. All the things before you even start swinging a hammer. To be quite honest with you, those are the things that can crush your whole project. Those are the things that can bankrupt you, keep you up at night. Those are the things that you can exceed the scope of your permits on. All the things that lead to massive liability and heartache and headache start before you even start swinging a hammer.
So you got to plan ahead.
And honestly, we'd probably spend hours just talking about that stuff alone. It's probably a good topic just for like a couple hours in itself. Just how do you plan a project?
Yes.
How do you do due diligence?
This guy knows a lot. Josh, especially the development, like how do you prepare? Because I took CCIM courses and they actually tell you what the developer is looking at. How do they have to predict the market shift? Because if they build in the wrong time, even though it's 2-3 years ahead, and if the market or the policy shifts or anything like that, I mean, you're...
So you just touched on one thing that the greatest thing you could do, honestly, to protect yourself if you're going to be a rehabber, go to construction school. Even if you're not going to get the license, study the Class A license. Go to night school, study what it takes to get a Class A license. Read the material better than they're going to teach you in the classroom. Because in the classroom, they're going to focus on certain things so you can pass the test, but own the book. Own that construction manual, because everything in that 2012 VA building code construction book, everything in there about insulation to framing to drywall, that tells you what a good job looks like versus not a good job, or what a job that's code compliant looks like versus not a code compliant job.
That's awesome.
Own that book, because it's going to keep you out of trouble. That's probably the first lesson you can really do. And the second thing is, Terry, this is for you tonight, because I'm getting old enough now that I'm understanding what you tried to teach me. It's probably 8-9 years ago now that you started like pressing this on me, but I didn't really quite understand at the time.
Okay.
And that is like, know how to control your contractors. Because
that's key on the business.
And let me explain to you what that really. I don't know if you're running out of time here, but let me explain to you.
We want to know this.
Let me explain to you in a nutshell. Let me explain to you what Terry's philosophy is. And Terry, I hope we don't have to pay you a dividend for this, but Terry's philosophy is the following, and it makes a world of sense. So, why do most people get in trouble with their contractor? Why?
I would think just because the contractors say they don't do what they say they're going to do.
Why don't they?
Lack of planning, organization.
Why don't they have a good plan?
Because their character, right? It all goes back to their character, wouldn't it?
I tell you what the problem is, and I'm guilty as much as everybody else is guilty of this. Christian, I want you to do this project over here, okay? And I want you to rehab that into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I need 2 nice bathrooms. I need a nice kitchen. Give me an open floor plan. You know what? There's a beam there. Make me an open floor plan. What are you going to say? Oh yeah, I can do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a great contractor, Josh. I can absolutely do that. Great. Can you sign the contract here for $85,000 and we'll go do it? And here's a lien waiver, and here's my license and insurance. Great. Get to work. When will you be done? 4 weeks. Great. Here's your first deposit for $20K. That's the typical experience that most people have with their contractor. What's wrong with that? If you want to control your contractor, it starts from day one. From day one, you need to be a professional. And this goes back to treating your business like a business and not a hobby. Treating someone who treats their business like a business, hey Christian, we're going to do that project on 123 Main Street. This is what it looks like. Here's my plans, they're approved. Here's my permits, we're getting them. You're going to put your licenses on these permits. Here's my budget. Here's what my scope of work looks like. You're going to do that bathroom with this tile. My tile costs $2 a foot. I buy it at Morris Tile Shop. My paint is this color. It's Sherwin-Williams. You're going to put 2 coats on there with primer. And it's going to cost you $1.05 a foot to paint. This is my budget for paint. So you go through your 20-point budget breakdown of everything from foundation to framing to trades to drywall to paint. You break out the entire project, right, down to everything in terms of major events. And you say, here's my budgets on every event. And you break down every event into subcategories. And you have your scope of work defined. If you've properly defined your project, your material list, your scope of work, then now it comes down to, can I control my contractor? The worst nightmare that most people have, and this happens all the time, I can't even tell you, even contractors that are approved in Fairfax County, this happens to people. Hey Christian, I need you to build that new house for me for $400,000 in Fairfax City. We're gonna build a 3,000 square foot brand new house in Fairfax City. I need you to do it for me, okay? You say, great, I'm gonna sign a contract for $400K with you. I said, okay, good. I'll need a 50K draw. That's what you tell me. Okay, here's a 50K draw. You know what you're gonna do? 2 weeks later, you're coming back to me for another 50K draw because you say, Josh, look, the first 50K, I spent it already. It went to framing, trusses, windows, doors, and I'm short. I don't have enough. I ordered it, it's on pre-order, it's coming in 3 weeks, but I don't have enough money now to pay for the foundation, excavation, demo. I need another 50K. If you don't give them the 50K, how are they gonna do the job? They're not, right? So before you know it, you're out of budget 100 grand, you got nothing, you got nothing to show for it. What does that contractor do? They have nothing to owe to you. They're gonna finish at their own. I mean, most of these contractors doing these small residential projects work out of the back of their truck. They don't have an office. If you get in a disagreement with them, what are you gonna do? Take them to small claims court or sue them? Your 100 grand, you give it to them for 100 grand, you can sue them all you want. Good luck getting it back because they probably don't have it. The reality is, once you give that contractor to build your brand new house, a 400K house, once you give them 100 grand, you got nothing to show for it. Now it's either do they finish it or do they not, and now they're on their schedule.
They're not liable, that's what it is.
They're on their schedule, not yours. If it takes them 6 months to finish, great. If it takes them 9 months, great. If it takes them a year, great. What are you gonna do?
You have no leverage.
You have no leverage, zero. So how do you do it the right way? How? And contractors, honestly, they don't have business plans. They don't have models. A lot of them. They're not from a management background. They would love, a lot of them, for you to come in and help them manage the project to be more efficient. Because if you manage it and help them be more efficient, guess what? They're not dragging their feet on yours and struggling to do for others.
So how do you find it? The question is like, how do you
Here's how you manage your contractor the right way. You say, Christian, I want you to build that 400K house for me. Here's my budget, I broke it down. I got $45,000 in framing material. I got $5,000 in roof trusses. I got $5,300 in roof shingles. $2,500 of that is for labor. $2,800 of that is for material. Whatever. You break that whole project down, right? Here's how we're going to work this. You're going to get the framing takeoff for the framing and the trusses and the windows and exterior doors. You're going to give me those framing takeoffs, and I'm going to order it for you on my credit card. From Barron's Lumber, from 84 Lumber, from TW Perry, from whoever you want. Whoever it is you want to order it from, I'll order it for you. It'll be here in 3 weeks. So you got that 50K, 60K order, right? Whatever it is, or on a smaller project, a 20K order.
Right.
Okay. As soon as you frame that house up for me, as soon as that $15,000 of framing is done and this material that I ordered, that house is framed up, guess what? I'm going to pay you on day one you finish. The minute you finish that framing job and it's satisfactory to me, I'm going to pay you in full. I'm going to show up on the job site. I'm going to be there with check in hand to pay you. If you want to do it in draws, great. The minute you finish that first floor framing, I'm going to pay you that $7,500 check the day you finish. And guess what? As soon as you finish framing the second floor, I'm going to be there the day you finish that second floor to pay you $7,500. But I'm not going to pay you $50K out of pocket up front. I'm just not.
Okay, so what you did is you broke it down so it's a step by step, so they get an incentive. Is okay, if I want more money, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this.
I bought you the materials you need to get the job done.
So you always buy the materials?
I don't always. Only major chunks.
Okay.
We gauge it in terms of risk. I can afford to lose 5 or 10K, but I'm not going to take a risk with a contractor over 20 to 50K. I'm not. So I can afford to give you a 5 or 10K draw, but you start asking me for 50K, 20K advances,
and then you,
no
then
freaking
you take
way.
Over that, and then you buy.
The minute you do that, the minute you're ahead of your contractor, even more than 5K, you're done. You have no leverage on the deal. If I control my contractor properly, they're going to be happy because they're going to finish on budget and on time, because time is not their friend either.
Okay.
If they're supposed to finish in 3 months, and guess what, they drag it out to 5, they're losing money too. So if I can help them finish their project on time in 3 months, the faster they finish, the more money they make.
Correct.
So here, the framing's there. As soon as you finish that first floor framing, I'm cutting you a check for your labor.
Right.
As soon as you finish that groundwork for the plumbing, I'm cutting you that check for that labor. But I'm not giving you a check for 50 grand up front. I'm not giving you that second draw for another 50 grand up front. It's just not going to work.
So I see the system. Now the question is, not all contractors are going to be able to be susceptible to that type of control or that type of relationship, right? Because most are not they're not used to it.
Most contractors will. It's just how you present it.
That's my question. How do you do that?
I like what you're talking about as far as breaking it down, because I actually haven't done that with my contractors, but I see where that would be better. Instead of saying, hey, come over here and give me a bid on this, it's more breaking it down. Hey, this is what I have budgeted for. I need you to do this, this, and this, and then they can tell me, or do it or you can't.
If you think about it realistically, the only reason any project ever drags out is because of money. Ever. There's no excuse on a project for dragging out other than money. And most of the time it's either a combination of both or one. It's bad management and money, or just the money. You got a lot of GCs out there that, you know, they're taking money to, you know, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So they're barely finishing their last project and they're getting a draw on the next one from you to pay off their last one. It's a never-ending cycle. So and they're not doing that deliberately a lot of times. They're doing that because, you know, a lot of GCs are not good managers, just inherently not good managers themselves.
Now you mentioned that you don't want to work with the little ones, the ones that are working on, you know, they don't have an office, they're small, you're not liable. Like if something happens, you can't get the $100,000 like you said before. So how do you go ahead? Do you go with mid-sized companies, big companies? How do you vet?
On the residential projects that we do, and I think most people, unless they're doing 20 plus unit deals, are going to work in the same sort of space.
Okay.
You're not typically in our business. If we hired a true professional like we are, Class A license, those type of companies would charge you so much that your profit is gone.
Okay.
And they would charge you that much for a reason, because they actually know building codes. They're actually licensed. They're actually insured. They actually know what they're doing. So
they know how to manage. They have managers.
In our business, like for us to make that money on whatever it is we're doing, because our projects are so small, we're not relying on that top 5-10% of contractors. We have to be that person for the other people. We have to be the person that manages.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We have to be the person that controls the money. And you're typically talking about small to very very small mid-sized guys who are, if they have an office, great, but typically speaking, they're operating out of a truck.
You just have to control
it.
It
doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. It's just they need possibly a little more guidance.
They have the skills, but not the management.
Yeah, well, what I've seen up here in this market also is some contractors, they don't even know why they're coming up with the bid that they are. They're just saying a number. So I would see where if you just present them, hey, this is what I can pay you to do this, this, and this, to where that may.
And here's the thing, like Terry's right about. I used to argue with Terry about this, but the older I'm getting, the more I agree with Terry on a lot of things.
What is he saying?
Terry be like, you know what? You know your budget better than your contractor. Here's my budget. You know, I have this many light fixtures. I have this many outlets. I have this type of chandelier. You know your budget, right? Mr. Contractor, my budget on this lighting is $8,000 for these fixtures, these outlets, these recessed lights, LED. This is my budget, $8,000 for this electrical budget. Like, okay, what if I can get it cheaper? A lot of guys are like, well, what if I can get it cheaper than $8,000? Well, you know what, Mr. Electrician, if you can do it for $6, all the power to you, but I'm budgeting $8. And if you can do it for $8, great, because I'm paying $8.
Yeah.
So you come in at $6, great, but I don't care. My budget's $8. My whole project is $200. These are my budgets. This is what I'm paying. I don't care if you underbid it or not, but
I like this idea.
So basically, you tell them this is my budget. Can you do it or not? If not, next.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, gotcha. Beautiful.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
I like
because nobody should know your budget and scope of work better than you.
I like that a lot because
it's the truth.
Yeah, and you're taking control right there.
Exactly.
The precedence is like, hey, look, these are my rules. This is the game. Are you gonna play it or not? If not, then I'm going to the next.
Versus most people, like, and I'm guilty of this at times, and definitely in the beginning, we're always guilty of this.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Contractor, here's the house. I need this. What
How
can
much?
You do? What can you do?
You throw money. There you go. Take the money. Take the money.
And the next thing you know, it's like, okay, 85 grand, 4 draws.
Oh, God.
Give me 20. Give me another 20. Give me 20. Give
See,
me 20.
you make it seem so like it flows very smooth, which is just an idea that's very simple, but people don't apply it. But the power of it is, I mean, it's a win or a lose.
Here's the reality of things. Like, everything as an investor, whatever it is you do, whether it's this model or any model of business that you do, everything is a risk. And in the rehab business, development business, the biggest risk you have is the contractor. You get a great deal, and the minute the contractor walks in, you're upside down because they just torched you or they didn't know their numbers correctly themselves. If you don't get control of your contractors, you will not be in this business very long. You will definitely not be in this business
so
for that long term.
And just to bring, not bringing politics, but do you think that's what Trump does? He takes control of the winning.
I think any good business, if you think about it,
any good business person does that.
Any good business sort of has a good entrepreneurial side to it, and then they also have a good management team. So the entrepreneurs like me, unfortunately, I'm guilty at times of this, the butterfly. I'm, oh my God, I see a great opportunity over there, and I got to be brought back down to earth. Like, that's not what we do. We do this, Josh. But you have to have someone in your company that's always looking for that great next vision. But at the same time, you also need to have a balance of, like, someone who's a really good manager who's going to keep you, that's not what we do, Josh. Stay focused. Like, keep these people in line. And when you talk about management, it's everything from, how you acquire deals to how you construct them to how you sell them. Your sales team has to be doing certain things certain ways at all times. And if not, then you're not managing your sales team properly. So everything you do in your business, you need to have good management.
Wow, that just opened. I think you explained it very well. I mean, I've read that before. You read books, but when you talk about real life examples and how it works out in an organized manner, I mean, that's something that's very valid. I hope the people that are watching here, especially if you're getting started in your season, see, he talked about being targeted. Being targeted, the ways to be targeted. Even when you find these contractors, have a filtering system. So, like he's saying, budget. Your numbers, budget it, subdivide them, and so that way they know if you do this, you're getting this money. If you do this, you're getting this money. So they understand, and if they don't want to play that, then they can play with somebody else.
I mean, honestly, I know people who have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars with contractors. Hundreds of thousands.
Oh, believe me, even here, everywhere.
People have got wrapped around the axle with contractors. They didn't finish. They did shoddy work, and they're always trying to point the finger at something. Accept themselves, and honestly, I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else, but I'm not guilty of it now. And the reality is, like, you can point the finger at every direction you want, but at the end of the day, like,
it's our fault.
It's not always just the contractor's fault.
It's whoever is involved, mainly.
If you didn't get out of your project what you expected, then either you didn't budget it right, and you didn't control the money, and you didn't control your contractor.
That's control money, control the people.
But I can tell you one thing: once you get ahead of the money on a deal with your contractors, you're done. You're done.
I think it reminds me, the way he puts it with the contractors is similar to the way I put it with my potential tenants. You got to be direct, honest, and respectful. This is how it is.
And quite honestly, if you're a serious rehabber, I mean, and we've been guilty of this too at times as well. I mean, we even had one last year that I'm not proud of the deal, but it dragged out it should have been done in 3 months and it dragged out to 7. But if you continuously let that happen and you're a serious rehabber, you're not going to be in business for the long haul because, I hate to say it, but time is money. Time is money. If you sell in the peak of a spring market versus, the bottom of a soft summer market in August, you just said goodbye to most of your profit. Plus your holding costs just went through the roof, 4 months. So like letting somebody drag a project out who's working with you for 7 months when it should have been done 2.5 or 3, that's just bad management. And honestly, none of us have anybody to blame but ourselves. I mean, I'm guilty of allowing that to happen.
Me too.
So.
now, Josh, what are, really quick, for people that are watching, some things to read, to learn from? What are some of your online mentors or perhaps some books that you recommend on management? Because that brings a really good point.
Honestly, Why Most Businesses Fail and What You Can Do About It. I'm forgetting the author of that book right now. It's like
Why Most People Fail.
Why Most Businesses Fail and What You Can Do About It. Okay. I think it's Why Most Small Businesses Fail. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
I think I know what you're talking about. I haven't done, but it's management, right?
It really talks about delegation. It gets a little bit into management. There's a lot of books by Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn is great.
If you're in the DC metro region, you can go to a lot of these talks at George Mason Real Estate Program. Learn from, people who are doing $30, $50 million a year in revenue in real estate, see how they manage their companies. It's a combination of things, both learning online, offline, in books, conferences, courses. But also at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to, in the field, real world experience. Because until you really get out there and try to manage a project like this on your own, it just everything sounds easy until you try to do it.
That's true. But the psychology of things it is true. You have to have the
and it gets back to you can do a deal on either the right price or right terms, and you've gauged that risk, and you can hire a contractor on the right price and terms, or you don't. It's up to you. It's what risk are you willing to take? Are you willing to give this guy 50K draws for 100K budget, or are you willing to just that I'm not willing to do that. It's too much risk. You have to gauge your risk profile and how you work with contractors. And some people, maybe you establish a good relationship with them over the years, and it changes. So, like we have one GC right now I've worked with for 8 years, and I trust him 100% because he's never let me down. Would I work with other people right out of the gate the same way we work with him? Probably not, because I don't know what they're going to do with the money, or if they're going to perform, or what their management style is like. So
and obviously you make sure that they're licensed. You do your due diligence on that end. That's a given, correct?
Absolutely. Let's put it in perspective. If your guys are not licensed and insured, and a lot of people dance around this and try to save money. There's too many investors that try to save money or don't. A lot of investors look at this business as I'm always trying to save money in all these different directions, but reward the people in your business who should get it. Pay for the things that protect you. In the construction realm of things, one guy cuts his finger off on your job site and you don't have the right insurance, what's it going to do to you? Bankrupt. One guy falls off a tree, one guy does a roof job and injures himself majorly. You're no longer in business, period. So you should gauge everything in your business in terms of risk, and that doesn't exclude how you hire and work with contractors.
So you got to cover all angles.
We carry multiple $1 million liability policies on every project we do. We have umbrella policies ourselves, company insurance.
You have different layers of protection.
We have employee insurance. Every possible insurance that you can get, it's worth the money. Even if I understand you have to come in pocket a couple grand, it's worth the protection.
Okay.
So.
Wow, you just blew a lot of people away with the information. I think, Josh, we're about, we're actually doing, we went way above, but you know what?
There's definitely a lot of
valuable and golden nuggets that you provide.
Let's hope so.
Yes, just for us and people that are watching.
There definitely was.
So really quick, we're going to close it with some questions. We have, Amir says, where are the classes in Northern Virginia? Where are the classes, Josh? And this
classes
for the construction?
The one that I took with Joe back in the day was in Tyson's Corner. I think it was called. I will post for your followers, but if they just Google Class A construction license, they'll find a lot of online training courses.
All right, Amir. So just Google it. They're I'm sure if you go on Google, you'll find it.
Man.
I feel like it was like real contractors, I believe, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Christian says, you spoke about mentoring. Do you agree with paid mentorship? I have seen a lot of mentors charging big fees, not just online gurus, but even local investors. What's your take on that?
To be quite honest with you,
have you paid, I guess, for gurus?
I have over the years, but at the end of the day, there's nothing like doing the business. There's nothing like getting out there, doing the business, learning from. It's actually part of the reason I started DMV Dealmakers is because we have speakers every month that are not gurus. The people that come speak at our events once a month, are the best of the best. If you haven't been to our events, they're the best of the best local superstar investors who don't want to sell you a course. Because when a lot of times when you get people selling courses, rehabbers, for example, you got a guy did 3 deals, and the next thing you know, he's trying to sell you a course on how to rehab houses. Which, if I was to do that from doing 3 deals, the information that I'd give you would be very misleading.
Right.
So I think you have to take what gurus tell you with a grain of salt, because a lot of things that they're telling you are based on a very finite amount of experience. And
like market shot.
You compare that to a guy like me who has real world experience over 10 years now, seen multiple phases of the market, done hundreds of deals of all different types of varieties. I mean, it's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. I mean, most gurus would have you think that, you know, you buy properties at 75% ARV minus repair. It's really not how it comes together. If you're a serious rehab developer, that's really not how the formula comes together. Like any other business, you have a pro forma. As your business grows, you tighten up that pro forma, you add or subtract certain things into it. I think you have to take guru information with a grain of salt. It's definitely a starting point, though.
Okay. That answers Christian's. Sarah says, yeah, totally. I have had experience, learned the hard way. Thankfully, it wasn't 100,000.
This is a good thing.
Okay. All right. Well, Danny, Bill, thanks for showing up. And everybody that's been asking questions, thank you very much. For the people that are watching this recording, how can people reach out to you with any questions, maybe any deals in the DC market? Because, you know, I'm sure some people here are watching.
So honestly, I probably get between 100 and 200 emails a day. You can email me. The best way to get face-to-face with us is email our team at info@dcfirstproperties.com, info@dcfirstproperties.com. The best way to get in touch with us, honestly, our team hosts the DMV Dealmaker group. It's once a month. Check our Facebook page, check meetup.com, come out, meet us face-to-face. It's a great in-person networking event for people from Baltimore to Richmond. Come out and go to our events, talk about deals, you know, wholesaling deals, buying deals, whatever it is.
Yeah, I have not yet. When is the next meeting for you?
So we're going to have a superstar investor come out on Tuesday, April 10th. It's coming up next week.
Okay.
6:30 in Falls Church, 105 West Broad Street. Starts at 6:30. We have networking for about half an hour. Our speaker of the month is going to be none other than John Rubino, JID Investments.
Okay.
John's gone from literally flipping deals probably 7-8 years ago to participating right now in 8 figures worth of commercial development from DC to Atlanta. He's doing everything from 200 unit developments to 90 unit condo projects.
I gotta be there.
So that's our speaker on Wednesday, April 10th, Tuesday, April 10th, and then Wednesday, May 9th, I believe, we got Ryan Gibson talking about his amazing growth with Spartan Investment Group. He's doing, I think, also like $30 to $40 million of acquisitions this year.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
From DC to Seattle. So check us out. Come out, network.
Well, you sold me that.
Make it happen.
Yeah, guys. So thank you guys for showing up. Again, we're gonna have a little mastermind this Saturday.
Yep,
April 7th.
Noon.
So we're going to be just talking about deal. We're going to break down some deals, specifically with buy and hold and fixing. You're going to be talking about
analyzing deals. We're going to pick a couple deals that's in the market now, break down the numbers so you can see how deals broke down and possibly buy it there.
Yeah,
I hope
bring
somebody
your deals,
brings
bring
a deal.
I'm looking for a rancher. I keep saying
I'm hoping somebody brings a deal that I can buy.
And I got to tell you guys one thing, because this is my first time in Hagerstown.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a chance to touch on this tonight.
Yes, I know.
But look into the market cycles. Look into expansion contraction models. Investors are seeking yield right now in tertiary markets. And DC, to be quite honest with you, is getting pretty bubbly.
Everybody's getting out.
In my opinion,
markets.
Look at these guys in Hagerstown up here. These guys are doing amazing things. Hagerstown is a tertiary market.
Yeah.
There appears to be great yield up here. Look at markets like this one right now, because DC, Tyson's Corner right now, just to give you a perspective, Tyson's Corner has hit the hypersupply phase of the market. We have way too many new Class A apartments in Tyson's Corner and other pockets of DC. For the first time in years, we're starting to see rent subsidies in DC. We're seeing 2 months free rent for a 1-year lease. So if you're investing in a market like DC right now, and you're tired of it, you're tired of getting beaten over the head with 30 other people all overpaying for the same deal, or you're not seeing any upside because the market's just too inflated right now.
Yep.
Look at tertiary markets like Hagerstown. These guys have amazing opportunities.
We're gonna get you a deal soon, man. We definitely gotta take a look.
You guys gotta find us a deal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for showing up, Josh. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Until next time, guys. Take care. See you next week.
See you guys.